Welcome to No BS Affiliate Marketing.
With your hosts,
Andy Mattis.
Pascal Kurz. Welcome, everybody. It's good to see you on here again. We have a special guest today on. Right. So Tiger's been having a lot of success with affiliate marketing before he kind of switched into coaching, where he is right now doing mindset coaching. Is that right, Tiger? So
Right.
give us kind of your backstory on how you slipped into the online marketing, affiliate marketing journey, and how you ended up going from this affiliate to mindset. Just a quick run through.
I love how you're like, I slipped in there, like I snuck in through the back door. Yeah, so I guess what ended up happening was I started off pretty much just gonna be kind of weird. So I started off giving away, believe it or not, everything I owned to the poor and unfortunate back in 2016, and I traveled to where I am now in the Philippines. I ended up on the other side of the world, traveling all through the U.S. And I ended up on the other side of the world, and I ended up trying to find my purpose, right? And kind of got to the end of my rope in a way, because I ended up in like all the people I love, all the people I cared about, kind of thought I was nuts. Like, this dude has lost his rocker. He's giving away everything. He's like, I don't know where he is now. Now he's in this weird country. And, I lost my kids. My ex-wife like alienated me from my kids. I was I didn't really have anybody I knew, and I was kind of stuck in this place, and I got pretty upset. I kind of like yelled in the sky, the ceiling or whatever, my room, at God, and was like, what the heck am I doing here? What was all this for? I was super frustrated. And fast forward a couple, I don't know, maybe it was like maybe a week or two after that event, and I saw a video online. I think it was like a black dude named Billie Jean is Marketing. And he was talking about like making money online. And what I really liked was I started looking into him, and I saw that he was helping all these people. Like, he had all these people like, this dude has changed my life, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, he has freedom. He has all this stuff. And that was my first introduction to like, what is this online business thing? And I found that rabbit hole. I don't know. I'm sure everybody listening to this has heard of Russell Brunson. I poked around and found ClickFunnels, and I started getting targeted by a billion ads from him. And he started talking about affiliate marketing, and I started selling the one funnel away challenge for $100 a piece. And my life sucked. My life ultimately sucked, because I was trying to sell this $100 thing, and I had this broken mindset where at the time, $100 was a lot for me. And as I was trying to sell it and getting all this kind of like kickback, I ran across my first mentor, my first like legit mentor in affiliate marketing, high ticket. He was saying like, you should sell something expensive, not something cheap. Like, this takes the same amount of work to sell something that's $100 as it does to sell something that's $1,000. And it sounded really good to me. I was already done with whatever. I was like, I'm over this whole $100 thing. People don't respect it. It's so hard. So I jumped in. I ended up spending I think it was a little over $3,000. And I jumped into his coaching program. And this guy kind of turned out to not really be who I thought he was, but that's a little bit down the line. But I ended up joining that in my first month. I went from struggling, making a few $100s in sales, like really grinding my face off, selling cheap affiliate marketing things, to switch over to high ticket. And I made $10,000 in my very first month. And yeah. So it was like, believe it or not, it was like, in the beginning, it was mind blowing. I didn't think it was possible, but then it became normal. I normalized it. And the next month I did over $10,000. I ended up scaling to pretty consistent around the 15, 20K. Sometimes I'd go a little bit over 20K per month range, selling, that high ticket. And eventually that mentor, I took over his coaching program. Like, I did so well. He was in the US. He came to the Philippines, where I am, at a different island. And I took over his coaching program, and I was coaching people, showing them how to make money. and they were getting amazing results. People were getting, they were starting to make 10K a month. People were quitting their jobs. People were, buying cars and houses and do all this stuff. And, the mentor I kind of partnered with, once I got behind the scenes, I saw that he wasn't really honest. He didn't really have the best interest of his students. He had a lot of different manipulative things that he had planned out. I couldn't stay, on that path with him. We butted heads, and I ended up breaking with him, and I ended up working for a multiple 8-figure company called Traffic and Funnels as a sales advisor. And one day I sold a $10,000 coaching program to someone who had never even heard of the company. They didn't even know online business. And they ended up watching a webinar, right? And they were supposed to fill out the survey at the end of the webinar to get on a call. They didn't finish the survey. They didn't do any of that stuff. And they ended up on a call with me because I was kind of like the new guy. So they gave me all the crappy leads to kind of put it straightforward about it. And, I got the guy on the call, and I took him from not even knowing. He was like, oh, you work for ClickFunnels? I was like, no, Traffic and Funnels. This is the other company. And this is what we do, and blah, blah, blah. And I walked him through, and by the end of the call, this guy didn't know my name, couldn't even pronounce it. And he gave me $10,000. I could have been anybody. I could have been an alien. I could have been a serial killer, whatever. And the dude gave me $10,000, and it did something in my brain. It clicked for me, and it was like, why? Because the commissions off of that, that I received, I kind of thought, I was like, why am I doing, why am I not just doing this for myself? That could have been all my 10,000. So then, I went through, and then that's how I ended up in coaching. I ended up launching my own coaching program, doing what they were doing. So long story.
Tiger.
My whole life.
Can I just quickly ask, how did you actually end up joining Traffic and Funnels? That's always been a kind of question that I've had there. So how did you actually
I believe in investing in yourself. So I originally joined that 10K program. So I jumped into it, and I wanted to better myself. I wanted to better my skills as far as being a coach, sales, marketing, all those different things. So I invested in the program. I went through it, and they actually were doing a message, and they were like, hey, we're actually have a spot open for an advisor. So anyone, they're really picky. Their standards are really high. They're so most people who apply are not going to get accepted. But if this is possibly you, jump on in. So I applied. I ended up doing a quick interview and got hired on the spot. And the rest is history. I started, I was an advisor there. So
awesome, man.
That's amazing.
And there's kind of interesting. It's funny how things kind of work out like that as well, because I remember obviously, as you were just kind of mentioning there, you said, you were screaming at the ceiling, and then a couple of weeks later you spotted this guy, right? So I've had a couple of these instances, and one of those was actually with you.
Oh wow.
I couldn't kind of explain. So the first one was I was at my job. I basically just been paid my wages. It all kind of gone out on bills. I was left with £20, and I was just I remember saying to my partner, I just need to do something about this, right? I can't continue working for scraps. And then I had a friend who was really successful. He was living with some 8-figure earner in Puerto Rico. Boom, he just added me to this Facebook group, and then it opens my eyes up to the online marketing space. So that's how I entered the rabbit hole. But then I was in that same program that you were talking about with that kind of guy. And then he basically sold me into this other program, and I was selling a bunch of people into this course, and basically my links weren't tracking. I must have sold about 7 or 8 people in there. Pascal was one of them, right? And my links didn't track. I didn't get paid for it. And I was literally at a point damn, well, I'm not going to continue selling people into this program if I'm not going to get paid for it. And I was my long-term goal was to step back into coaching. What do I do? And then I can remember I posted a video on Facebook, and I think you saw it. And then boom, Tiger pings up. This was just after you left Traffic and Funnels. You're I've just launched this new coaching program. Jumped into your program, and that's when things really started to pick up for me. The
rest is history.
So
I remember that, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
So amazing how, just like you said, how everything works out, you think it's like the end of the world, and a few weeks later you're on I don't know, complete opposite.
Yeah, that was the hardest thing for me. Like I said, my first 10K month. I remember thinking, like the marketing messages, the sale messages was like, start making 10K per month, and that was so far out of like what I thought was possible that it was just like, dude, you might as well have been saying like, all right, so in the end of 90 days or 1 year, whatever it is, you're gonna be walking on the moon. Like he might as well have said that. It was so like that's not real. That's not going to happen. But if you say so, and yeah, believe it or not, like it's possible. You know what I mean? With consistent strategy, with consistent effort. And I was failing before, so it really didn't take me. I guess like I didn't have any like special skills at the time to do it. You know what I mean? Because that was like one of the things I thought as well. Is like I had to be like super smart, super skilled, or whatever.
Yeah, man. That's the beauty of it, man. Like people have this like misconception that you need all these degrees, you need all these qualifications. I haven't got any of that stuff, and like you see some of the most successful people in like this industry, they're like college dropouts. They've got like no qualifications there. Tiger's one of them. Yeah. So yeah, it's mad.
Yeah.
So yeah, man.
Tiger, what have you found was the biggest, shift from you obviously struggling to sell $100 products to making 10K per month? What have you found is like the, if you could point your finger at 2 or 3 things that changed from you struggling to you making a 10K per month, what would you point the finger at? That's
a really good question. So I would have to say, number one was the mindset, not self-sabotaging, and like I said, I didn't really think it was possible. So I would, I had those urges to kind of like, every little thing that popped up, I knew that was it. I couldn't do it, but so I had to really dive deep and really work on that. And the other thing was focusing on revenue generating activities. So many people, I saw that, join even before me, different programs. They joined a whole bunch of programs. They've been doing it for so long. I noticed that they were doing things, and probably has to do with a lot of their mindset and the way they see themselves, the way they see what's possible, is they were focusing on like, oh, I need a new logo. I need business cards. I saw people like making merch and like this weird stuff. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I don't understand what you're doing. And, that's like some of the things. So focusing on revenue generating activities. Number 2 was actually getting your mindset, making sure that you work on limiting beliefs. And then the third thing is actually investing in yourself, having a mentor, somebody who's done what you want to do successfully, and getting their help so that they can shorten that learning curve. So those would be the 3 things I would say is like if I could go back and give myself advice and give some other people who didn't fare as well some advice, I'd like shake like, just focus on this stuff.
Yeah, mad. And that was another little thing I got from you as well, was just kind of focusing on like the revenue generating activities. Like I see people, they're like, yeah, they're not making any money. They're like, yeah, I'm just trying to build these free funnels. I'm trying to set up my website. I've got this pretty website, and it's like when you really kind of look at it, like Russell Brunson, he's done an amazing job with ClickFunnels. And one of the things he said, in order for me to be able to sell my software, I have to make people believe that they need a funnel, right? And now everyone's like, I need this funnel. I need this funnel. Like in the last 9 days, my business done about 12 grand, right? And not a single one of those appointments has come from my funnel. I have a funnel, but it's like the sales, it's like the revenue generating activities. There's a whole bunch of activities I was doing before working with you, and it was literally like, okay, Tiger's like, yep, let's get rid of this, let's get rid of that, let's just throw all these things in the bin, and let's just focus on like these 2 things. And it's like, well, surely that can't work. It's like there's like a couple of little things, and then once I started focusing on that, what was taking me sort of 12 hours 12, sometimes 15 hours just sat on my computer not really getting anything done, I could get done in about 4 or 5, which was like huge. And yeah, it's crazy. Like 20% of the activities yield 80% of the results.
That's the pitfall. Is like it's feeling busy, but not really making any strides forward because it's like just working on all this nonsense. But it feels good. It feels good. You know what I mean? So 6 months pass by and you're like, what's going on? I haven't done anything. I haven't made anything. It's like, yeah.
All right. So yeah, Tiger, you obviously kind of like after you after you left traffic and funnels, you stepped into like the coaching consultant space. So yeah, you've recently just kind of switched from working with coaches and consultants to mindset coaching. So I guess like what was it that kind of made you want to step into like the mindset side of things?
I got to the point where, so I was working with a lot of clients, and I started to notice a trend, like between the ones who were getting amazing results and the ones who weren't. And I'm like, okay, so they had the same program, had the same coach. Like, why is this person getting results? Why is this person not getting results? And I started to notice that the pattern was actually their belief systems, their mindset, their identity, at the core, the paradigm, the way they see themselves, what's possible and things like that. And those are the ones who really did the work. Like you really did the actual work. You went through and, daily you do your mindset stuff, you do your morning form, all those different things. And you broke free. And I started to realize, like, so originally I'm a college dropout, but I have this weird pattern that I did in the past is that, I majored in psychology first at the University of Chaminade University in Honolulu, Hawaii. And I came all the way to my last semester and I left. I dropped out. And I left. I was actually in the Marine Corps. I was a Marine Staff Sergeant. I got out of the Marines with this weird idea that I'm going to go major in physics. So I went to the University of South Carolina after that, and I majored in physics because I had a real passion for understanding the nature of reality, at its core. And how it interconnects with the way we perceive reality. And those two link together at that pivotal moment. Whenever I kind of realized, like, I like what I'm doing, but it's like I want to really help people at the highest level. And I'm like, I want to step into my passion. There's kind of like this uneasiness, unsettledness or whatever. And what ended up happening is my daughter started having seizures. Really bad seizures. She's 2 months old, and it caused me to be still and like, how like when you're in your business, you're on a track, like you get so focused that sometimes you don't notice things outside of that peripheral. I'm just focused on the generate money, revenue generating activities, going hard, and then this stopped. It caused me to pull back, and I'm like, this isn't what I want to do for the rest of my life. This isn't what I'm truly passionate about. And I realized, like, what does Steve Jobs say? Like, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking back. And I kind of looked over my life and I'm like, psychology, physics, and then every conversation that I ever saw that really invigorated me had to do with that weird stuff. Like that whole, like, some people call it woo-woo or whatever, but it ultimately changed my life because, having that paradigms, it acts as our invisible prisons.
Yeah, it's very interesting, man. Yeah, amazing. Because I like, literally, like, I've recently been reading a book called Relentless by Tim Grover. And yeah, he was obviously someone that kind of worked with like Michael Jordan for like over 15 years. The late Kobe Bryant, rest in peace, the legend.
GOAT.
And what's that?
The GOAT.
Yeah, the GOAT. And like as a child, I was like really naughty, Like everywhere I went, I got myself into trouble, you name it, right? And like in the book, they were just basically talking about like how when you're kind of like a child that like you basically get taught to be good. You're there kind of, ripping the TV box off the TV stand or, just doing all these kind of naughty things, and you're basically taught to be good. And they talk about your dark side, okay, which is sort of that side that nobody really kind of understands in you. And this is usually what kind of, again, what drives kind of like entrepreneurs to do sort of like certain things is like that dark side that's still that part inside of you, I guess that. So yeah, it kind of sounds like something similar. That's kind of what's sort of driving you to kind of go down that sort of route there, because
Certainly.
yeah.
Certainly.
Mm.
Yeah, because it was like I noticed even in myself. Like I grew up. Obviously, I'm American, but I grew up in the South in a very kind of like religious home, and there was a lot of like beliefs, like that shadow self. I was also a devilish kid, but there was a lot of things that were drilled into me that I didn't realize from my parents. You know, sometimes we say things as parents. You know, I got 6 kids, so sometimes we say things as parents that out of frustration, or like, you know, just in that moment, like that you don't really mean it that way, but it comes out that way. And like, you know, doing some of the deep work and uncovering that, I noticed some things that, you know, my mother had said to me growing up, like, because I was kind of challenging. It was like, why does mine have to be so stupid? Like you don't got no sense. Stop doing stuff like blah, blah, blah. So, but like, as a kid, you're still impressionable. Those things you kind of just pull as like feedback, as the environment telling you who you are. And I pulled some of those things into my identity, and I pulled other things. Like if I were asked for like toys or something, it'd be like, you think you were good enough to deserve to get that toy today? No, but so it taught me a pattern of thinking, a certain amount of values. And you know, they played the lottery, and all of these things brought together to form like how I saw me, who I was in the world, and what was possible for me. And a few things that I had to break was I had these beliefs that money was created by being lucky. Somebody had to win the lottery. Somebody had to be really good at sports, or be a really good singer, or like get Publisher Clearinghouse to show up with this oversized check at your house. Like that was the only way to wealth. And I had beliefs of like, if I became wealthy, like I would lose my friends. That probably doesn't sound like it made sense, but it was in there, because it's like, you know how if you ever as a kid, you do something, like you win something, a competition, a video game, you get a pair of new shoes, but then all the people who don't have it, what do? They Jones you. They're like, look at you. You think you're all that, blah, blah. They reject you. And it's like dying that social death. So it kind of puts that equation of like, if I advance too far, I lose the people I care about because they can't relate to me or they push me away.
Yeah.
And stuff like that causes you to self-sabotage, like unconsciously.
It's mad, isn't it? It's mad. Like I was literally talking to my friend Chris. This was probably like a couple of months ago. He basically broke his leg like really bad on a bike. Broken in multiple places. There's like still rods in his leg. And he was sort of sat up for a bit. So I like basically tried to introduce him to, the coaching consultant space. And I was talking about, these kind of results, people getting these results. And he was like, man, like, yeah, it's like, it's intriguing. Like, it just sounds bad, to have, right. And then like, yeah, we kind of like, gone through like a little bit sort of like mindset training. And he picked up on one of those things. He was like, yeah, like, certain beliefs that his parents are kind of instilled into him and stuff like that. And there's just when you really dive into it, there's so many kind of like false beliefs about certain things, like money is the root of all evil. It's like you're literally kind of like conditioning yourself to struggle for the rest of your life. It's crazy. And like I came from one of those backgrounds as well, because my mum, she raised 5 kids. She's always struggling. Like any jobs that she's had, she's always worked on pretty much kind of like minimum wage. So always kind of struggling, eating from food banks and stuff like that, just not having the money to kind of do stuff. Yeah, you know what it's like. And like when I kind of left home, I found myself in that same kind of pattern. I was like, right, I can, my mindset was like, right, I have to go get a job that's kind of near sort of minimum wage. If I went up, it would be like, 50p or a pound more than what I was previously earning. And then, at one point it just got to a point where like, damn, there just has to be more to life than this.
Yeah. I thought that too, man.
Yeah. I just literally just broke. I was just like, man, I just can't keep doing this. Like there has to be more. And then boom, my friend added me to the group. And the most ironic thing about this was like, we used to be best friends. I watched his mum literally make millions from Google AdWords. She was like one of like the first people for that kind of business to blow up in the UK at the time. Used to go over his mum's house. It was just like this £700,000 barn conversion. It was huge, really nice house. I watched my friend, his business blow up. disappear, be traveling. He's still traveling now. He left when he was like 19, so that's probably like nearly 10 years ago. Whenever he comes back to the UK, we meet up for a meal, and for some reason it just still didn't register that this is something that I could do until I hit that moment. Yeah. So it's like sometimes there's things just staring you in the face, but you just it doesn't register, man.
Yeah, it's those things. Is like, especially like with that religious background, it's like this was something I had to really break. And some people may hate me for this. I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. But like, I would, because I remember this is weird. My mom and dad would buy a lottery ticket and then pray over it and fast over it. Like, Lord Jesus, let this be the one that win the thing. We'll have a lot of blah, 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 blah. And we'd fast and we'd pray. And that was some of the things. It's like learned helplessness. Like Jesus or God is going to somehow like all of a sudden like give you $1 million. It's like, no, that's not how money works. Money does not work that way. Like that's one of the things I think is really holding a lot of people, especially with those kind of like certain religious spiritual beliefs, and then just kind of feeling like this is the thing I had to install is that what makes money is actually solving problems in the marketplace in exchange for money. And it was like, no, that can't be it. Like, for the longest time, I was like, well, even when I started coaching, it was like, well, I need to do like 1 billion coaching calls, and I need to like have 1,000 videos, and I need to work and do all this effort in hours, and it's like, nope.
Yeah. It's mad. Yeah, like you just mentioned, like the learned helplessness as well. Like anybody watching this, I recommend going and grabbing the book called Mindset by Carol S. Dweck, and she talks about this learned helplessness. There's like a couple of different examples. So she uses the ones with the dogs on this platform. So
an experiment. I love that.
Yeah, amazing, man. So like these dogs, for the listeners, like the dogs get put onto this platform, okay, and it's got like a divide in the middle. Dog A gets put on the platform. It starts giving the dog electric shock, so he jumps over the platform. Boom, the electric shocks stop, right? So dog B gets put on, same thing happens. He starts getting the electric shocks. He jumps over the platform, but the shocks don't stop this time, right? So they do the test again. Dog A goes on, he jumps over, same way, the shocks stop. Dog B gets put on a platform, the shocks start, but he doesn't jump over the divide because it didn't work last time. So he learned
actually laid down.
Yeah,
he didn't collapse.
Exactly. He kept taking it because he didn't think he could break free. And like, I think you can actually see this stuff online as well, because I think this kind of happens somewhere in like Africa, where they get these baby elephants and they basically they tie them to this tree or this pole, this small little pole with a chain. And when it gets sort of chained up, it tries to escape, and obviously it doesn't work. And then this elephant grows into this like huge, fully grown adult elephant who could literally just rip this chain to pieces if it tried. But it doesn't try to break the chain because it learned helplessness from when it was a kid.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's so powerful. You have to be careful what you tell your children, because, we've all three of us on this, podcast here, we've all had those kind of same belief systems instilled, obviously different, but, similar kind of belief systems instilled into us as a kid. And breaking free from those patterns is not easy. But once you do it, you see the light.
Yeah, I think the hardest part is like seeing how that relates to like your personal life. Like looking back over mine, I see how like believing like, oh, we're gonna hit a lottery, we're praying, and we wake up and the lottery numbers come out and we didn't win. And then we're back to eating like, water in our cornflakes, water in the cereal instead of milk. And it's like helplessness. Like the shots happened, nobody saved us. Yeah. Jesus didn't save us. I was really good. I had to earn the toy, but we didn't have the money, so I still didn't get it. So it's like, well, that doesn't work. So you end up, with those belief systems of like, no matter what I do, I'm stuck in this place in life.
Yeah. I guess like the best kind of advice I could give to someone, and this was difficult for me. It was a real kind of reality check. Was just take full responsibility, like how your life looks, like everything that you own, the money in your bank account, job you have, the car you have, the house you own, like literally everything, right? That was your doing, not the government, not the rich, not anybody but you. There's a series of decisions that you've made throughout life, Like, I remember the first time I got told this, I was like, nah, it's the government, it's the rich. Like, but it was just kind of a real kind of reality check. And when you learn to sort of take responsibility for this stuff, you can then sort of take corrective action. Okay, so this is what a series of decisions that have led me to here. I can now take corrective action to go and change that. But if you're constantly blaming someone else is always responsible. So you can't. You're just stuck in your prison, essentially.
In marketing, that's used in so it's kind of like this. If you ever watch a webinar, now anybody who's watching this, every time you watch a webinar, you can be like, whenever you see it. So it's like in order to control what other people do, you have to get them to believe that it's not their fault. They aren't responsible for whatever happened. You know what I mean? So sometimes you hear this in webinars. It's like, you may have tried this, you may have tried this, you may have tried this, but it's not your fault because of blah, 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 blah. Introducing the way to solve it. So then you buy into the it's not my fault. Now someone can control you because your sense of like control, your locus of control is outside of you. In order for someone to change, they have to believe that it is their fault. So it's like, those are the things. Is I 100% agree with you. In order to actually create change. So inside of your program, you have to tell people it's your freaking fault. You got to take responsibility if you're going to change your life. Outside of your beta program, you're telling people it's not your fault so that you can ultimately help them. You know what I mean? So that they'll actually get them to take the action, to jump over that fence away from the shocks so that you can actually help them. And that was the thing. I don't know if you saw the second part of that experiment, because they took the dogs again. After, it took the dogs that learned the helplessness and they actually reversed it. But the way they did it was they had to physically grab the dog's legs when the shocks happened and put them over, like, and manipulate them to actually go to the other side. It took a few repetitions for that. But then after that, the dogs would react the same as the other dogs. They would actually jump over the thing, but they had to be like instructed and physically walk through the process. Which is why I think like programs like yours is really effective if you feel like you've had like learned helplessness, because you get someone to help you go, put your foot over the fence, you can do this, like focus on this, and they're like, oh snap, I can do it. Here's a sale. Next thing you know, then they can do it.
It's mad. It's honestly mad. And yeah, I just recommend anyone grab that book called Mindset by Carol Dweck. Like, she really dives into like the fixed mindset and like the growth mindset. And like, my mum, I love her to bits, but she has like the worst fixed mindset of, you can't tell her anything, you've got to go to college, you've got to go get your master's degree, you've got to do this. Like, there's just a specific kind of way. And like, just kind of sort of breaking free from those shackles is difficult. So, we're
conditioned from like sperm cells to believe that like more education equals more money. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I used to think that way. That's why I majored in psychology and physics or whatever. But it's like, oh, if you want to make more money, either get a second job or get another degree.
Yeah.
But like, that's not going to lead to wealth. What leads to wealth? Leverage. Uncoupling your time from money. If you're working per hour, you're not going to be wealthy.
That's what killed me, man. Just literally, having to work an extra 2 days overtime just to make ends meet. And it just killed me, man. So like 60 hours a week, not having time with the kids. And like, and then like, I remember when they were like, you need to stop trading your time for hourly pay, and you need to get paid for the transformation. And even though I heard that, it kind of registered, but it didn't register. I was like, nah, like, you got to charge hourly, surely, man, because we've just been so conditioned. Like, I'm just looking at like the education system, like here in the UK, it's like, you're conditioned that way from a very young age. You go through primary school, okay? You do your SATs in year 6, right? Then you go on to secondary school, you do your GCSEs, right? You go to college, you do your exams. You go to university, you do your exams. You're just conditioned to, I don't know, just kind of this way of just kind of getting these pieces of paper, which are going to somehow make you a whole bunch of money. But really, when you really look at it, right? People may wonder, like, why is there such a big gap between the rich and poor, right? You look at people who go to university and have like the highest level of degrees, right? We're talking like PhDs, right?
Yeah.
Look at what they earn. Like, seriously, actually look at what these people earn. And like, most of them are, just over like 100 grand. That's not even a touch. what the rich do, like not even scraping close.
Yeah, if you were to put it on like a graph, it doesn't even show up. It's like way over to the left at like the origin.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, how come we have PhDs in economics, and how come they make 100K a year, and there's people who make this in a day?
Yeah.
Weird,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, at the beginning of this month, the first like first 4 or 5 days, I brought in a little over $17,000 in cash. It's like, that's like I could never have made that working a job, even if I was like probably a brain surgeon. You know what I mean? Like, you get what I mean?
Yeah.
But it just seems so far out there from like what we're conditioned to. Like, if you look at like The Simpsons, who's the evil character? The rich Mr. Burns, and he's evil, right? Like he's the bad guy. Like most like our culture paints that. So it's like, you don't want to be evil, do you? You like, you almost have to feel like, well, you got to manipulate people and in a bad way and steal from them and kill babies and make people die in Africa in a mine somewhere in order to be wealthy. And it's like, wealthy if that's what you had to do. You know what I mean?
It's like that victim mindset of like, poor me. Like, I can even think of an occasion where, like, I'm a huge car enthusiast. I used to go to all the car shows, and like, occasionally there would just be this one guy. Like, everyone's got their like Japanese cars, their German cars, and there'd just be this one guy in the corner that pulls up in like a Lambo, and people are like, oh my god, like he's got too much money, and it's like that conditioning, like, it's mad.
I guess we've been talking about conditioning and mindset paradigms, all this stuff. But how do we actually change it? How do we change our paradigm or condition ourselves from this victim mindset or this, rich people are bad people, to...
It's through, like, I would say through repetition. Okay, so first of all, it's kind of obviously just being aware of it, right? But you think about like why belief systems are actually formed, right? So if you believe in God, like you see the people, like, let's say for example, like people that are in like the Pentecostal church, like praise Jesus, you see them in this church service, and it's like it's this strong, you see them, they got their eyes shut, they're dancing, their arms are up in the air, it's just like strong felt like emotion. They pray, and you couldn't tell that person that God doesn't exist, right? Because it's kind of like it's repetition, right? So people that worship Allah, like they pray like however many times a day. I used to work with this Muslim guy. He used to have to kind of go off like a certain times of the day to go and pray. And it's repetition, right? If you've been told from a very young age, like just constantly that, like religion's bad, you're probably going to grow up thinking that religion's bad, right? So it's through repetition. And that's how I've been able to kind of change like my mindset. So that's just like my take on it, but let's give it to the mindset coach here and see what he's got to say.
I love your answer. I definitely do agree with it. What I would add to it is, so this is kind of like the way I see it. So if you could imagine, I can share my screen if you want, but I'll try to explain it just with my word pictures. But if you imagine kind of like a circle, a cycle. So you have like some input, and then what comes next? Thought and emotion. So you have a certain type of thought. Let's say something happens. You have something in your environment that shows you, like someone said something to you, or someone says no on a sales call or whatever. You have a certain thought about it, and it creates a certain internal state. You're going to feel rejected, sad, whatever it is. It creates an emotion. So through how you're saying repetition of thought and emotion, those lay down those initial foundations. And then what happens when you have thought and emotion repetitiously? You start to create beliefs. So it's like you see something enough times, kind of like if you ever heard Pavlov's dogs. It's that classical conditioning. The experiment where Pavlov, he would put meat powder inside of these dogs' mouth, and they would salivate. And eventually he would have his worker come in and do that. But eventually the dogs would start to salivate when the guy walked in without the meat powder. Before he even put it in, he started salivating. So he set up an experiment with a bell and food. And he would give the dogs food, and while they saw it, he would ring the bell at the same time. They would salivate, eat the food. Eventually, he took the food away, and he would just ring the bell, and the dogs would start salivating. They had a conditioned pairing of two separate stimuluses in the world. The sound of a bell, the sight of food creates a reaction. So then those things getting paired creates a belief. If I hear the bell, I believe that there's food there, and my physical body believes it so much it reacts. So then we're doing this in our environment all the time. We have beliefs because of thoughts and emotions repeatedly happening. I believe when this happens and I feel this feeling, that feeling becomes the bell. So if I feel like I'm not good enough or I can't make this money or whatever, and I go to, let's say I need to do a live video. When it's time for me to do live, I feel a feeling. I have a thought like, oh my God, I'm not good enough. What if I mess up? Thought, emotion of like, oh my God, I feel my heart beating fast, and your brain goes, your heart is beating fast. You feel goosebumps. You're scared. So you interpret that as scared. And you're like, oh, well, that means that this. And now you have a belief that's set up. So then that becomes your bell, and you have that natural reaction. It can hold you there. The next thing over is there's actually a little structure in the base of, like, right below, right in front of, I guess, right behind the pons in the brainstem. It's called your reticular activating system. It's like a pencil-like structure in your brainstem. And its whole job is to filter out reality. What it does is it does almost like kind of like a self-confirmation bias for you. You ever like wanted to buy a car where it's like, I'm going to go buy a Mustang, let's say. I don't know if you like Mustangs or what. And then all of a sudden, what happens? Now you notice Mustangs everywhere. Like, did they have a sale on them? Like, what happened here? Like, why are all these Mustangs out here? They always were there. No, they didn't have like an influx in it. What happened was we naturally have so much information coming in from our environment that our brain would be overloaded to try and put all of it in our conscious mind. So most of it is deleted or distorted or generalized. So then all we see is what we kind of like painted. So this is when people say like, you create your reality. That's really at essence what the true meaning is like, you don't see what's really there. You see like a projection, your own map of it. So we have our own map that we project out based on our thoughts, our beliefs, and those emotions that we set up. And then over time, that becomes our identity. So then, and our identity feeds our behavior, and then the loop starts again, because what we do gets a feedback from the environment, and then we have a thought, and then an emotion, and then that thing. So how do you break it? The way you're using your reticular activating system, that RAS right now, on default, it looks for confirmation of those limiting beliefs on its own. So in order to break that, you have to consciously, so first of all, you set up a new belief that you want to have. Let's say the world is abundant. I don't need to be lucky. I make money through solving problems in the marketplace. So you're replacing, I make money through solving problems in the marketplace versus people who are rich are lucky. So you change those beliefs. The way you do it is you create a new thought, feel the new emotion of it, and then use your reticular activating system to actively look for confirmation of this new belief. So through repetition of actively, purposely doing that. So I did this, myself. So I would have like events. So it's like my revenue generating activities of like, sales conversations, sales calls, blah, 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 blah. At first, I felt a lot of anxiety. Like, what if I message someone? What if I talk to someone and they tell me to kick rocks? Like, you're stupid. Why are you talking to me? And it was that fear of rejection because I had a certain belief system from the past, being an introvert, blah, 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 like, oh, this and this and this. So I had to set up a new belief. And then whenever I would speak to someone, and even if they were just nice to me, I'd go, oh, this is evidence that it's working. And I'd write it down. And let's say I made a sale. Boom. This is evidence that I solved that person, I helped that person solve this problem, and I ended up with money. Evidence. And what do I do every day? I do my morning formula. I read those beliefs. I vision what I want my life to be, and then I review those confirmations of this is who I am. This is what's happening. This is how it's progressing and growing. And over time, the same way those false beliefs, those limiting beliefs were laid down, new empowering beliefs take hold. And then now the reason why it's so hard to do certain things is because you're trying to use willpower and like discipline, which is good, but it's limited. It depletes. But when you change your identity in that way, in that core level, you can do those things because it's just who you are. Like, does it take any effort for you to be you? No, it's like, this is who I am. So when you change and update the actual programming underneath it, the stuff that seems hard now, it doesn't take any energy. Where willpower, you're exhausted. You're like, I'm exhausted disciplining myself to do this every day. Like, if you want to try to be a runner and it's hard for you to go run, it's because you don't have the identity of a runner. Because a person who's like at their core, like I'm a runner, like if you didn't let them run, they're like going nuts. It's like, I need to run.
Yeah,
it's not hard to get themselves to go do it. It's just who they are. You get what I mean?
Amazing. Amazing. And I was that kid. I used to be a track and field athlete. You couldn't, like, anyone told me, like I was naughty in school, like I said, but the one lesson that I behaved in was PE, physical, exercise or whatever it was. I can't remember what it stands for now. But, that was my thing. Like, anything with sports, I was there. Like, you couldn't keep me away from activity because, So, I love how you kind of just broke that down. Everyone's just got like a mindset kind of masterclass. As he does, master kind of just value overload.
Sorry, I've dumped too much information all at once.
Yeah. So, man. So that's been great. Have you got anything else to kind of go over here, Pascal? Or
maybe one last question that doesn't have anything to do with mindset or anything. Do you have any regrets, Tiger, in your life?
In my entire life?
In your entire life.
Dang. Whoa.
Guess you didn't expect that one.
That is a loaded question, man.
Yeah, that's a doozy of a question, Pascal. Dang. It's like I have one I want to say, but I'm like, dang, this is recorded in public.
This is gonna haunt you for the rest of your life.
No. This is terrible. This is terrible, but I guess for the sake of like transparency and honestness, it's one of those things. It's like it is, but at the same time, a portion of it isn't. Like I was married before, and looking back at it, the reason why I got into that relationship is because of certain like emotional wounds I had in the past, and I realized like I had a certain identity. Like I would argue with my mom. Like I told you, she would tell me, "You're dumb. You're blah 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 blah." So it was like I didn't have those issues resolved, and I found that in a woman, so I could continue and win that argument that I was having with my mother's passed away. You get what I mean? So it was I married my mom, but in a whole like it was like that same fight. So it was like this woman was disrespecting me, doesn't value my thoughts, didn't support me, and then it was just like, how did I end up here? And so that would be something I regret because I lost a lot of progress because a lot of my mental energy and emotional and physical energy went to just that relationship and just trying to unscrew it and just deal with that. I had 2 breakdowns, like actual nervous breakdowns that put me in the hospital with this chick. And like that's something I horribly regret. I wish I would have never even met her, or I would just went the other way. But the reason I wouldn't change it is because out of that came my children, or some of my children. And I couldn't, we have, because she alienated me and she taught them a lot of evil things about me, we don't really have, at least the oldest one, we don't really have the relationship we should have. But I couldn't see them not existing. Like I love my children. I raised them for a while as a single father because she left. I was in Hawaii and she left for like 3 or 4 years. I raised them alone, like full-time single dad. And I brought her back in. Like I said, emotional wounds. I let her back in. And she had a kid by another guy. She didn't know who the father was. I took that child in as my child as well. So she's, another one of my daughters. And then this girl, now she took my children, the one she abandoned, and turned them against me like I'm evil. And it's like, that's the one thing I regret is like I never should have wasted my time because that was beneath me. But I was seeking out closure to a situation with my, from my childhood. And hindsight is 2020. If I could go back, I would shake myself and be like, bro, why are you even messing with this chick? Like, you don't even like her. Like you don't like who she is as a person. Why are you doing this to yourself? But then I would never have my kids. So
yeah.
Super personal question, Pascal. Thanks.
Oh man. Yeah.
You have
Damn.
anything you regret in your life?
I couldn't think of a worse question to ask.
You're welcome.
Wow, that was loaded, like triple loaded question. All right.
I know everybody listening to this better smash, like if this is on YouTube or whatever, better smash that heart and subscribe because I just bore my soul.
Yeah. Yeah, this has been really good, man. Really interesting to kind of have you on there, Tiger. So yeah, just want to
thank you so much,
and appreciate you taking the time to come out. So yeah, for anyone that's watching this, don't forget to smash that love button, leave a comment down below, let us know what you think, and don't forget to smash that subscribe button. Yeah, Pascal, you got anything else to kind of add here before we wrap this one up?
No, I just wanted to point at the subscribe button. It must be somewhere here.
All right. So yeah, yeah, really appreciate you guys kind of jumping on, and yeah, we're gonna obviously catch you on the next episode. So thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.
All right.